One of the most inspiring and influential men, not only to South Africa but to the world, was Nelson Mandela. He was a peaceful yet effective hero to many and has left his impactful mark on the world. Mandela was born on July 18, 1918, to the Madiba clan in the village of Mebzo in Umtata, which is part of South Africa's Cape Province. Nelson enjoyed the simplicity of his life, but after his father's death at the age of 12, Nelson's mother took him to the great palace of Makiziweni. Here he would receive better living conditions and a new father figure. This is also where he studied at a Methodist mission and learned to love English and the African culture. Being at the palace, he heard stories of his ancestors and their struggles. This is when he first dreamt of making a contribution for the freedom of his people. He then attended the University of Fort Hare, but was soon kicked out for student protesting. Arriving back at the palace, the king was furious and said he would arrange Nelson's marriage, so he ran away to Johannesburg. Then Nelson went to the University of Witwatersrand to study law, but he never graduated. During his schooling years is where he first became exposed to apartheid and more serious issues by being at the university. Apartheid is a legal system of segregation and discrimination on the grounds of race in South Africa. He married his wife Winnie in 1956, who would stick by his side during his journey.
The Africans.
When Mandela was a young man, he joined the African National Congress, an African group that fought against the apartheid system.
They want political independence.
Nelson began to use his voice to stand out. He held strikes and boycotts throughout college, and he joined the ANC, the African National Congress. He spoke out for race, equality, and the rights of others.
Nelson Mandela, the man known all over the world for his fight for equal rights for people of all races. He spoke out against the system in South Africa, where black people were not allowed to live or even mix with white people. Black people had to carry special passes to be allowed to work and travel.
He was then chosen for the Chief of Defiance campaign. This is where he and 19 others were charged under the suspicion of communism and suspended for 2 years. Then, years following, police opened fire into a crowd, killing 69 people unarmed in the protests of Sharpeville. This led to the banning of the ANC, and Mandela was back on treason trial. The next years, he worked underground trying to plan national strikes and secretly left South Africa. He was then caught and put through the trial of Rivonia. He was then imprisoned for guilty of sabotage to overthrow the government and leaving the country without a permit.
Far from listening to their protests, the government thought they were troublemakers. Mandela was charged with trying to overthrow the government of South Africa. He was sentenced to life imprisonment.
They were sentenced to life imprisonment at Robben Island.
You join us at the Victor Verster prison where the excitement is running high.
Mandela knew the eyes of the world would be watching. This was his chance to celebrate a symbolic victory over apartheid.
Mr. Nelson Mandela will within seconds appear, and that will be the moment the world has been waiting for.
The crowd just kept swelling and swelling and swelling.
After 27 years in prison with harsh and unfair conditions, Nelson Mandela was finally released after the unbanning of the ANC. He was released from prison in 1990 and went on to lead the way for the abolition of the apartheid in 1994. He was elected as South Africa's first black president that same year. Mandela also embarked on a world tour, during which audiences welcomed him as a hero and a world leader. Mandela brought his message to the United States, where he toured a series of large cities to raise funds for his cause. He also asked the U.S. government to continue imposing economic sanctions against South Africa until the complete dismantlement of apartheid. Nelson Mandela has many foundations that still run today. For example, the Nelson Mandela Children's Fund and the Mandela Rhodes Foundation. In 1993, he was awarded the Nobel Peace Prize with President F.W.D. Klerk. Nelson Mandela impacted South Africa at the time of his presidency by creating a rainbow nation and helping them become a democracy, which made the nation begin its road to a stable economy and political policies. With his presidency ending in 1999, his legacy still lives on after his passing in 2013. He also globally impacts today's world by starting foundations and movements that still help civil rights today. Nelson Mandela Day is on July 18th, and it's a day to celebrate everything Nelson has brought to the people of South Africa. Nelson suffered and struggled, living the most selfless, devoted, and inspiring life to South Africans and the world.